Am I the a-hole for stopping my daughter's biological grandparents being in her life after her father signed his rights away? A few years back with my ex-partner, I ended up with an accidental pregnancy despite using birth control. He wanted me to have a termination. Well, I thought we should keep it. After much arguing about the matter, he told me if I kept the baby, it would be over, and it'd have nothing to do with it. I was hurt by this, but accepted it, as I can't exactly force him, so I told him to sign away his paternal rights if that is how he feels. He agreed, and when I gave birth to my little girl, he signed his rights away. Raising her was a bit of a struggle, but my parents were a godsend in this. It helped out a lot at first. She is now 5 years old and we're doing great. She even calls my current boyfriend of 4 years dad. It seems lately my ex-partner's parents have been putting a lot of pressure on him to have children, but he doesn't want to, so he revealed to them that my daughter exists. I'm aware of this as he keeps trying to message me to convince me to let them see her. He has even turned up at my house once with them, and when I told him he signed his rights away and has no right to her, and that by law none of the three of them are related to her, he threatened to take me to court, which led me laughing and slamming the door in his face. I do feel a bit guilty over his parents. This isn't their fault. But at the same time, she's only their grandchild by blood, and he had no right, in my opinion, to use my daughter to try and feel their desire for a grandchild. Is it wrong of me to keep them away when I could just keep him away? I just worry this would be confusing to her, and they'd eventually try to make her bond with my ex as a father figure. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. At the moment he signed his rights away, they stopped being your daughter's grandparents. You don't owe them anything. If you had a close personal relationship with them independent of the one with your sperm donor, you'd be totally within your rights to foster that child-grandparent relationship. But you do not owe them that. Let him take you to court so the judge can laugh him right back out of it. Edit for clarity. This is a judgment on the level of a-hole you'd be for denying grandparents access to the child. It is not legal advice. If a court says you're required to let them interact, that's one thing. That is not what this judgment is discussing. Don't assume that you know how it will work in OP's jurisdiction. The only one who could competently say that is a family court lawyer that practices where OP lives. Correct. Some places, like mine, have grandparents' rights and they can be given visitation. As far as I know, the grandparents have to prove there was some sort of pre-existing relationship prior to being denied access to the child in order to potentially qualify for grandparents' rights. Their son signing away his parental rights and not even telling them about the child's existence until now means they legally aren't connected to the child and wouldn't have any leg to stand on. Not a hole. The fact that these people just rocked up to your house and invited, when you've denied him at his parents' access and he threatened to take you to court? Yeah, do not give them any contact. They have zero respect for you and your boundaries. Just to be on the safe side, get a lawyer say about this. And also count the child support your ex would have to pay you back if he took you to court. Have it handy too. Yes, that part was not right, but she needs to think about her daughter. She's depriving her child of having to know what could be amazing grandparents, and they got mad because she won't let them meet her. If I was this child and found this out when I'm older, I'd be cutting contact with my mom. Not cool. Grandparents are usually amazing, and you can tell them how you feel about their son. If they don't agree and are going to invite him to things to try to get him part of her life, then you know you have every right to cut them off. Just because their son doesn't want anything to do with your daughter, does not mean they should not have part in your daughter's life, if it's just going to be them. They showed that they won't be good grandparents. She isn't depriving her daughter of anyone. They showed up to her house and invited after years of no contact, expecting to see a child that is a stranger to them just so they can play grandparents. How you can think those are good people is beyond me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the man who raised me that he is not my dad anymore? I am a product of an affair. We found out when I was 14, and it led to my parents divorcing. I lost everything when they got divorced. John, the man who raised me, became distant. My mother was a huge mess, and I was reeling from realizing that my whole life was built on lies. John didn't want to talk to me anymore, and he didn't fight for custody. He made me move with Mom. He didn't even talk to me once. He watched me cry and beg to stay, and I was on his side. I hated Mom and begged him to let me stay, but he didn't want me there. He paid child support because it was his name on my birth certificate, but that was it. He disappeared from my life and I lost his side of the family too. My aunts and uncles, grandparents, and cousins. My mom didn't have a lot of relatives, and I had been closer to his side of the family. I had been really angry with my mom, but she was there for me. I lashed out and was not a good daughter, but she was the only one I had, so I forgave her. I know what she did to John was awful, but my mother loves me and that is not something I can say about John, and I needed someone in my side. I really tried to get in touch with him. I tried calling him and tried to meet up with him. He didn't respond. He sold the old house and moved away, and his parents didn't even want to see me. I was really broken and felt really guilty, and I needed a lot of therapy to gain some balance and healthy coping mechanisms. It has been 6 years, and now he's trying to contact me. I met up with him because even though he ghosted me, I still had fond memories with him and I wanted to see him. He has gotten married again, and he seemed to be happy. I referred to him by his name, and he said he didn't like it and mentioned that it made him really uncomfortable because he saw me as his daughter. I told him that I didn't see him as dad anymore. He lost it and was very upset, and told me that he had made a mistake and he wanted to make up for it. I told him that I had already grown up and I really didn't need him anymore. He got even more upset. I felt uncomfortable and ended up leaving early. I feel like an a-hole because he is the main victim of what my mom did, but I don't really have any sympathy for him. I just see him as the person who couldn't give a damn about me. Not an a-hole. He abandoned you during a difficult time of your life and hasn't bothered to contact you for 6 years. Being family is a privilege that has to be earned, and he lost it. This. OP, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sure it was incredibly painful and difficult, and good for you for seeking therapy and giving yourself the tools to cope. And look at how he describes this. That he made a mistake? Like, oopsie, let me throw OP away like a piece of trash. No, and no. He was/is justifiably hurt and angry at what your mom did. But he watched you cry for him and beg for a relationship with him, and still cut you out. He took a cold, calculated, deliberate actions to ensure that you could not contact him. He didn't give a crap how much he was hurting you. And now, only now when he wants something from you, does he reach out? Did he even apologize for what he did? Some crap can't be taken back, or forgiven, or described in simple terms like mistake. Not an a-hole. OP, he is not the main victim here. You are. Yes, he was badly hurt by your mom, but you were badly hurt by both of them. Not an a-hole. John had reasons to withdraw from your life, but he doesn't get to act like his behaviors have no consequences. The consequence here is that you grew up without him, and he's no longer your dad. Agree, not an a-hole. He could have given himself space, and effectively withdrawn from her life in a way that was healthy for both of them. At 14, she is old enough to understand that it's complicated. All it would take is a, honey, this isn't about you. I never want you to think that. I love you, but I need some time to deal with this. It makes no promises, it gives him the ability to leave, it preserves what you had, and it reiterates that it's a him problem. Not an a-hole. It's understandable that he was angry about an affair. However, it was inexcusable that he took his anger out on a child. You literally had no choice in the matter, and were completely innocent, yet you had to bear the brunt of his anger. Yes, what your mother did to him was horrible, but that in no way excuses what he did to you. His reaction when he met with you was telling. If he were truly interested in your feelings, he would have understood that you were hurting and would have been willing to go at a pace you were comfortable with. Instead, he made it all about him. He wanted to make up for a mistake, and therefore you have to forgive him right there and then to make him feel better. Nope, it doesn't work that way. It just showed that he is just as selfish as he was when he ghosted you when you were a child. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my stepsister that her father should go to a nursing home? My mom married her husband when I was 24, and he made it very clear at a time that he did not want a relationship with myself or my 3 siblings. This was fine with us because we did not particularly care for him either, and made it known to my mother that while we are happy that she is happy, we will never see him as family. We are cordial to him and make sure to send cards on his birthday or at holidays, so as not to upset my mother. But for the most part, we do not speak to him or his children. My mom's husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's 8 years ago. While he remained in phase 2 for that time, he is gradually worsening. His falls are becoming more frequent, and he's becoming more forgetful. It is very sad to see, and I feel badly for my mother who is taking care of him. My siblings and myself have broached the subject of putting him in a care facility that specializes in caring for people with Parkinson's, and she said she wants to keep him home for as long as possible. Her choice. We support that, but are prepared to step in if necessary, which is now. 2 weeks ago, my mom's husband fell, and when she went to go help him up, he grabbed her and pulled her down, causing her to fall. When she fell, she broke her hip, and she has to have a hip replacement. My mother is now in the hospital and will be transferred to a rehab facility near her home. When she is able to be discharged, she will be going to live with my sister. My sister and myself are her designated healthcare representatives and her powers of attorney as well, so while she is in rehab, we are making all of her decisions. My brother reached out to my stepsister to let her know of the fall and that my mother was in the hospital. He said that he was at the house with my mom's husband, but thought that one of them should come down to take care of him, and explained that when my mother got out of the rehab, she was moving in with my sister. My stepsister basically told my brother that she isn't coming, and that he is our problem. So he informed her that if that was the case, he would call Adult Protective Services and have them place him in a facility. In the meantime, we are trying to find placement for him at a good facility, but explained that we would not be paying for that. My stepsister freaked out and called us heartless. I feel bad, but right now my mother is our main priority. Keeping her husband safe is really not our problem, but we are doing what we can to make sure that he isn't in a dangerous situation. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepsister that her father needs to go into a facility at their expense? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. The situation should be a surprise to nobody, and yet your stepsister seems surprised. She's gonna have to step up. Stepsister. I'm not coming down. He's your problem now. Opie's brother. Well then, we're gonna call Adult Protective Services and have him placed in a care facility so he can get the help he needs. Also, stepsister. How could you? You're so heartless. Stepsister only has a heart when the situation goes her way. It's ridiculous. Being placed in a care facility is ultimately for her father's own good. If she doesn't think he's her problem, she shouldn't have a say in whether or not he gets put in a care facility. Not stay home. This man made it clear that he didn't want a relationship with you or your siblings. I assume that means having you responsible for his care would also be a no-go. As long as you aren't dumping him off under an overpass, you're doing the right thing by finding a facility for him. The rest is up to his kids. I'm German, so I have no clue about legalities in the US. Would his wife/their mother be first in line to be liable for the cost of his care? Or would that liability go straight to the kids? Do the mother and husband have an estate that would be used up first? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my son and daughter-in-law for a copy of the key to the new house they bought? 2 weeks ago, my son Ethan, 27, and his wife Jess, 30, bought a small one-story house in the town we live in. After settling down, they invited us for a small party for the occasion. We sat for dinner and talked about the house a bit. Me, my husband, and Jess continued conversing after Ethan excused himself to take an important call. Jess showed me the original key to the house, and I asked if she made copies yet, and she said no. I said she should, and also give one copy to me as well. She looked at me funny and asked why she should. I explained that it is necessary so that it could be used in emergencies. She rudely said, I don't know what kind of an emergency that would require you having a key to our house. Sure won't be a fire incident. She obviously didn't seem to have any idea that a fire incident wasn't what I meant, and I got offended by her sarcasm. I pointed out that it's not just her decision, because this is my son's house as well. She smiled at me trying to be polite, and stated that only the ones who contributed towards the house get a copy and that I really don't need one anyway. Also assured me that my son will have the same answer for me. Basically saying, don't bother bring this up with Ethan, he'll tell you the same thing. But I did, and she spoke on his behalf the entire argument, repeating what she said over and over. Things escalated to her calling me pushy, and me telling her she was being unnecessarily rude and disrespectful. My husband and I left in a rush, and I felt horrible. My husband went on and on about how paranoid and controlling I was, to basically be demanding a copy of the key to the new house. But again, I stated that I was just trying to be helpful and taking extra precautions since anything could happen. But he insisted I overstepped and ruined Ethan's and Jess's joy for their new house, as well as dinner. I genuinely did not think what I said was out of line, but I'm not sure why Jess reacted so intensely. I think my request was innocent. He's right. You're the a-hole. It's all about phrasing. Do people offer copies of their keys to trusted family members in case they got locked out / need their plants watered, etc.? Yes, definitely. The key word is offer though. You said to two adults, you'll need to give me a copy of your key, which is why you're the a-hole. And then you doubled down by continuing to push. Even if you'd said, hey, if you wanted us to keep a copy of the key for you for emergencies, and then left it alone, you wouldn't be the a-hole. So, phrasing. And I imagine tone. This is exactly what I was going to say. If she had phrased it as advice and suggested that they offer a key to a close friend or neighbor in case of emergencies, then it would have been taken completely differently. She demanded a key, which makes Opie look creepy and seem like they want to look around the house while they are gone. Opie, you're the a-hole. It's all about the attitude. Things escalated to her calling me pushy and me telling her she was being unnecessarily rude and disrespectful. Opie's both pushy and unnecessarily rude and disrespectful of their boundaries. It's their house. She doesn't get to demand copies of the key. That was out of line. Offer in case of emergency? Yes. Demand? No. It seems like Opie's really disrespectful to daughter-in-law in general. She thinks that Ethan's call can overrule Jess's, and that he has more of a say regarding the house. You're the a-hole. You sound like one of those overbearing mother-in-laws in r/just no mother-in-law. You had a point about someone having a key, but that someone didn't have to be you. And you should have talked to them together. You should have dropped it once she said no. But instead, you pulled the "it's my son's house too" card and made a power play for your son and which woman he'd listen to, which was weird and unnecessary. Then you got offended and had to make a scene. Your son is married and has a new priority now. Leave her alone. You're the a-hole.